Hello, everybody. Chris Lee and Alfred Ezman of Southeastern 14 here to talk SEC baseball. On Sunday night, we got a game going between Tennessee and North Carolina. It looks like Tennessee is going to finish this one off. About an inning and a half to go, so nothing's a given in this day and age of college baseball. But the Vols got to be feeling pretty good about where they are. Kentucky feeling great about where it is after winning its first game. We had a thriller last night between Texas A&M and Florida, late nighter. All kinds of stuff going on here at Southeastern Florida. Got a grumpy dog behind me. You can probably hear that too. But Alfred, big weekend in college baseball. Let's talk about it shortly as we watch the end of this Tennessee-North Carolina game. As always, we remind you, our channel brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup playoffs this season. Every stat, matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. And, of course, this was going to happen. When the game's over, head over to our online casino, get in on the game of blackjack or poker, unwind with one of our 250 slots games. 150 actually is the number there. You can see I'm a little distracted. Anyway, head to the website today, get in on all the action. Use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right. This guy's about to get kicked out of the office if he doesn't pipe down. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, Alfred.
Like baseball.
I knew that was going to happen too the minute he got in here. But in any case, Tennessee, North Carolina as we speak. Tennessee batting in the bottom of the eighth with a 5-2 lead. Vols just need to get 3 more outs in the top of the inning. I presume they will hand that back over to Nate Snead, who pitched the eighth. Tennessee, Alfred about to be in excellent position, likely up 2-0. And that would put the Vols in the winner's bracket where they would wait to play the winner of the elimination game between North Carolina and Florida State on Wednesday. You blow this one, you got to come back Tuesday on a little less rest. But I think things look good for Tennessee to polish this one off. While I'm taking care of a disruptive animal, I will hit mute, give you the mic to talk about what the Vols have done tonight. And by the way, Drew Beam was exceptional. I think he's the story of this game so far.
Yeah, I'll start there. Drew Beam with a very good start, probably the best start he's had in a long time. 5 innings of work, 4 hits, 1 earned run, only 2 walks, and struck out 7 batters. He really shut down this North Carolina lineup, guys, and in a time where, the Vols kind of needed that sort of pitching to help, push them as far as they could. They got it out of an arm who's been kind of shaky as of late, just getting late into his starts. He kind of ended on a rough note, getting some base runners on for the Tar Heels, but Kirby Cannell came in and kind of took care of that. So props to his teammate there. And Tennessee's, all knock on wood, I guess, for Vol fans out there. If they go on to win this game, they put themselves in a great spot. I was watching, and I believe they had the graphic up. 27 of the last, I think it was like 33 national champions have started 2-0 in Omaha. Something right around there. Someone can correct me on that. But bottom line, if you're going to win the national championship, the way to do it is to start 2-0. And Tennessee puts themselves in a great position. And I got to give them credit, too, because, we all watched that Florida State game they had, and that was an emotional game. And, Tennessee could have easily have, used a game like this, not as action-packed, so to speak, or not as offensive, so to speak, just, a little less emotion to kind of calm themselves down. And really, it was all about the pitching today for them, which is huge because, this game was kind of decided on 2 hits by Kavaris Sears and Reese Chapman. And, yeah, Tennessee shut down this North Carolina team, and they're sitting pretty heading into this week, I guess, where they still have to get into a championship series.
Alfred, your internet's a little spotty. I'll talk for just a minute, see if you can figure that out for a second. But, I think the story tonight to me, of course, Kavaris Sears had the big home run. That was the 3-run shot in the 4th or so. Game was scoreless, got a couple guys on because the hits tonight, I think, were even 5 apiece. But the difference was that, and the other thing was just Drew Beam. Drew Beam came out like he was taking triple shots of espresso between innings. I don't think I've ever seen, I'm not going to say I've never seen this fastball sit 95, 96 consistently, but it's been a while. He's been more of a pitch to contact ground ball. You don't elevate the ball on him, which plays great in this park, right? I mean, they're fine either way. But when he comes in, he's throwing gas. I don't know that I've ever seen his breaking ball any better than it was tonight. Just that combo of sitting 95, 96 with what looked like a really high spin rate on the fastball, just judging on the way it held the plane, and a breaking ball that really going down and in to lefties in particular was just really, really nasty. I don't know that I've ever seen him have better stuff than he's had tonight. So that's number one. Number two, the Tears home run was the big one. Number three, Reese Chapman coming off the bench to swat a home run. That was a big thing. And then I think probably the most notable thing in this, other than the way, by the way, Matt's telling me it's my connection that's spotty. So maybe I'm the issue here. We're off to a rousing start here between between dogs and my connection and all kinds of stuff. But in any case, a big night for the Vols, up 5-0, or excuse me, 5-1, as it looks like the crowd is starting to clear out in Omaha a little bit, and Tennessee would presumably be headed towards the winner's bracket game on Monday night.
Yeah, it seems that way. Can you hear me now, Chris? Sorry,
not Monday, Wednesday night. Yeah, I can hear you fine. So
perfect.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've had internet troubles. Those were a regular feature of the channel till about October when somebody flipped the switch on my internet connection. I don't know what happened there, but it's been this has not been an issue in probably 8 or 9 months for me. So been that kind of night. Yeah, I took a mini vacation to Atlanta for the weekend to watch some baseball. Got to see my Braves and your Rays on Friday night. So
how coincidental.
In case I was watching that. Yeah, how about that? I was watching some of Tennessee, Florida State, in what'll be an instant classic from that 12-11 win.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk, and we'll talk, circle back to Tennessee a little bit later tonight. But we got to hit some A&M because the Aggies last night rolled the dice and went without Ryan Prager and lived to tell about it, thanks to Jace Lavallette's heroics late, taking a home run away that would have been the difference perhaps. So there was that. And then Kentucky, my goodness, Kentucky getting big home runs in the 9th inning. And then I think in the 10th, I believe it was it Nicholson and Waldschmidt? I was driving back and getting blow by blow on text from people. But I think Nicholson had the game winner in the 10th, right?
Mitchell Daly had it, actually.
That's right, Mitchell Daly, the Texas straight. Mm-hmm. Nicholson had the one in the 9th. Now it's coming back to me. So, yeah, I mean, the SEC right now, the only games the SEC has lost are to other SEC teams so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's been strong for them. And, that Daly capped off what was 3 straight walk-offs in those games, which is incredible in and of itself. And, we kind of took a turn toward probably one of the best College World Series we're going to see. I think this, out of all the games so far, really this Tennessee-North Carolina game has been the one where it's like they've been in the most control. And I guess earlier today, if we're going outside, Florida State kind of handed it to Virginia as well. They were dominant. Jaime Ferrer is exploding for them. That's a story to watch, too. He has 3 home runs through 2 games. But, yeah, the SEC is coming out strong. And I was thinking from the beginning of the tournament, I didn't necessarily say it, that we were going to get a all-SEC title series. And it kind of looks like we're headed that direction with how Tennessee's controlling that side of the bracket. And then, obviously, I like the odds on the other side with 3/4 of the teams being from the SEC. So, it's a great first day. There was some late night heroics. Shout out to anyone that stayed up for that Florida A&M game because of that 5-hour almost rain delay they had in Omaha. But they delivered, and that was a big time performance from the Aggies and Lavalette for getting that catch as well.
Yeah, that was the plays in this tournament have just been incredible. For one thing, the defense, you saw Hunter Inslee run into the wall, leave his eye black. You saw the Lavalette catch last night. It just feels like everybody's starting to play some of their better ball. And the game so far, I think this will be, Well, the Virginia game was the first one today that was more than a 1-run game. So that's been a thing. I mean, it's been a phenomenal College World Series. Very hot out in Omaha. Maybe not as humid as it is here in the South. But yeah, I think they said it was 98 to start the game tonight. Did I hear that right?
Degrees. That seems right. I think it kind of dropped into the 80s because it was overcast for this game. But that's what I got confused too about that umpire change, Chris. I don't know if you saw anything on that they did mid game, and that's why I figured this game was going to be over by the time we got on here. But I think that kind of sent everything through a loop. I don't know what that was about. That's something to look up. I guess that's kind of another storyline of this game, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what occurred there. I thought it was weather. The reason I'm bringing it up was I thought it was weather at first. So I was like, oh, we're going to get another replay of Saturday with waiting on this game, but it never happened. So thank goodness.
I think an umpire took a foul tip is what happened.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I had read that somewhere. So I had just taken my dog out for a walk when I was like, I'm going to go between innings and get that one in. So I missed it, but I did see a little mention of that later. So I think that was the delay. They had to go get a substitute umpire, which they've got one on hand. They've got an alternate there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that was your delay. But yeah, we're going to have, like, once you get up 2-0, it's like a regional, right? Once you get up 2-0, it's yours to win. The SEC at this point, it is looking like it's going to be an all SEC final.
I agree.
I mean, looking like there's a long way to go, but presuming, which Tennessee's also got 2 guys on with 2 out here in the bottom of the 8th, so Vol's threatening to add a little bit more. But here's the point I'm getting at: Tennessee holds on, barring disaster, and I think that the odds of Nate Snead giving up 3 or giving up 4 with 3 outs are probably pretty slim. We'll see what happens, but presuming that happens, then you're looking at Tennessee having to lose 2 in a row to one of either North Carolina or Florida State, and Tennessee's pitching will be fresher at that point. I presume Tennessee will go to Sechrist, who's been there 3, hadn't thrown yet. So Tennessee being a really good spot there. And then on the other side, you've got either Kentucky or A&M is going to come out tomorrow night 2-0. And at that point, whoever wins that one is the favorite, which would set up a very interesting final between Tennessee and A&M. Would be kind of strength on strength.
Mm-hmm.
A&M, I think, has got a little more power pitching, although the injury to Sadeo, I think, hurts him a little bit. And, of course, everybody knows about the Braden Montgomery injury on the offensive side, but A&M can still hit, and we've seen them do it in this tournament, although not the way it did it. Or you get Kentucky, which is a completely different style of game. And, again, plays really well to this park, and can give some teams fits, because when you play Kentucky, you got to really be on top of your game defensively.
Yeah, and I'd say, just commenting on that too, I think Tennessee looks way better defensively tonight than they did against Florida State, just because I think at the beginning of that Florida State game, for anyone who watched, there was that miscue on the first at bat with Max Williams where Burke ran too far into the infield and he got there safe, and we didn't see that tonight from this team, albeit they have another half inning to play after this bottom of the 8th is over. But I think that kind of helps them a lot. And yeah, I mean, you're going to have to be on point with Kentucky. I think, Chris, a really interesting thing, if that were to happen, Cal Stark, we've seen, loves throwing that back pick to first to Blake Burke, and Kentucky's a team that likes to steal. That tells us we're going to get a little bit of a action-packed, at least a lot of action-packed sequences over there. So that'd be pretty cool. That'd be a pretty cool thing to watch. That would be a big turning point in that series if we got that between Tennessee and Kentucky. Would be Cal Stark throwing down these runners at first, because they're going to take leads. Minchion's going to want them to take leads and whatnot. And I don't know. I mean, I think we'd get the best. We'd get kind of 2 different combinations with that, because it does seem like we're going to get Tennessee or the other A&M Kentucky, winner from tomorrow. But it's 2 interesting concepts, and I think it would make for 2 great series in general.
Yeah, Tennessee just added to its lead. I think that was that Kavaris Tears that doubled down right? I think it was. I think that's his dad.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, probably the two biggest hits of the night for Tennessee are both Kavaris Tears.
Yeah.
Who just laces a double about 10 feet inside the line to left into the corner. They hold the other runner on first at third, which is probably the smart move there because the outfielder made a pretty good move to go pick it up. But, yeah, Tennessee second and third, 2 outs, bottom of the eighth. And I tell you what, do you think you can go reset your internet for a minute?
Yes, I can. I'll even come back.
You've got a delay here. Yeah, let's do that. I'll carry the show live. I'll take questions while you do that when you join us on the backside. So
Got you.
if you can
Sounds
just
good.
reboot your connection or whatever there for a minute, I'll carry us here. But anyway, Alfred's going to leave us for just a minute while we get his connection straightened out. Again, what we're going to hit tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about Tennessee's really impressive performance tonight. The Vols were just really, really dominant in what looks like it's going to be a win over North Carolina. Nothing's done yet till it's done. But Tennessee with a 5-run lead and 4 outs to get with Nate Snead, who's been their most consistent / durable reliever for them. Big story of the night for Tennessee, of course, Kavaris Tears, we talked about, had 2 big hits, but I think it was Drew Beam. You set the tone in this thing the way that teams can score runs with your pitching. And Drew Beam looked like a different guy than we had seen in the wild. Drew Beam's never been a bad starter, right? I mean, you see guys struggle in the high run scoring environment. He's had that at times. You've seen Drew Beam throw some games where he goes 4 and gives up 3 and walks a couple guys and, gives up a couple hits. And it's been a little shaky at times. Shaky's a little strong, but it's not been vintage Drew Beam. Drew Beam tonight looked like a different dude. Like if all you ever saw Drew Beam was what he threw tonight, you'd be like, that kid looks like a top 10 guy off the board in this draft. I don't think he's going to be that. Last mock draft I saw, Drew Beam was in the 60s. And I think that's fair. He's not been overpowering. And I don't think you jump to conclusions after one night. But here's my point. Drew Beam dialed into a different gear tonight for Tennessee. Fastball, instead of going 92, 93, was 95, 96 consistently. Breaking ball was as good as I've ever seen it. I can't remember if he was throwing a change or not, or a third pitch, but he didn't really need it because the 4-seamer he was riding up in the zone and just they was getting a lot of swings and miss with it. Breaking ball was deadly, especially to lefties. They just had no chance. The only real hiccup was, I think, the 5th inning. He started getting a little bit of control issues. Was just missing his spots by a couple inches, was not getting some borderline calls. Did get some later in the inning, which helped him get out of it. But he just sort of, when he's got a 3-run lead and he's throwing strikes, but I think the big thing, I think the first 5 innings he threw, I don't know, maybe 50 pitches. I don't have to count. Somebody here in the chat will. But when you get a lead and on a hot night, you're dealing with that kind of pitch count, and you got 2 pitches that just nobody is touching. Finally, I think the 6th was when it kind of wore out after that delay. Vance Honeycutt hit one in the seats. They had a couple other opportunities, and I think that was inning Kirby Cannell came on and shut the door. But I thought the difference tonight was Drew Beam. Threw about as well as anybody's thrown in this tournament so far. And again, I don't know what that does to his draft stock. I don't know that a team's gonna put a point of emphasis on that last start as compared to, the other 15 or whatever he threw this year. But I do think that's a glimpse of the upside of Drew Beam that maybe we hadn't seen a lot this year. When he's got that gear to him and he's not just a pitch to contact guy and he's just blowing it by guys and working those 2 pitches, he looked like a first rounder tonight. And who knows, maybe he will be next month. we'll wait and see. But I think that was the tone setter for them tonight. The offense was not going and putting pressure on defenses the way it usually does. But the big hit by Tears, I felt like the minute Kavaris Tears hit that 3-run home run, it was over. It just felt that the way Drew Beam was throwing and the fact that that pin was pretty fresh, you had a chance. I know Combs wasn't great the other night. I don't think Snead was either, but you can bring those guys back on a day's rest, and you're going to be fine the way he was going. And now they've got Snead going the ninth. And again, uphill climb for Carolina to try to get a couple of runners on. And the first guy, it looks like Christian Moores has made a nice play to get an out at first on a grounder where he had to go to his right. So 1 down for North Carolina the ninth is Nate Snead just needs 2 more outs to get through this. There's going to be an appeal here. That was a play where it looked like maybe Blake Burke's foot came off the bag, but I couldn't tell. So we'll probably wait for a review here. And either North Carolina's either going to have the leadoff guy on or it's going to be, and I think his foot's on the bag. Hard to tell. Not a great angle, but either way, I don't think North Carolina is going to come back and get this, whether it's got 2 outs or 3 outs or whatever. So we got that. On the other side of the bracket is Tennessee will wait for tomorrow's game. It'll get the winner of the elimination game between North Carolina and Florida State. And I'm guessing if you're Tennessee, I'm guessing you'd rather have North Carolina. I'm not entirely sure. His foot may have been off the bag. Hard to tell from that angle for sure. I guess if you're Tennessee, you'd probably rather have North Carolina because I think you saw Florida State go trade bomb for bomb with Tennessee on Friday. And if you're going to beat Tennessee, it's either going to be you get a Hagen-Smith-like performance out of somebody. I'm not sure that arm is left in this tournament. Or you get a team that can just go bomb for bomb with you. It feels to me like Florida State is that team. But we'll wait and see. Either way, whether it's Carolina or whether it is Florida State, again, barring something crazy happen, if you're watching this later, we're in the 9th inning, Tennessee's got a 5-run lead. I'm just kind of doing some presuming at this stage. Either team you're getting, you're going to have to beat Tennessee twice. All right, on the other side, let's talk Kentucky for just a minute. It is really, really hard to go to the College World Series. It's hard to win a game, period, but it's really hard to get your first one. Kentucky got its in flying colors. It had its back against the wall on Saturday. Got a home run in the 9th inning to tie it, and then the game winner by Mitchell Daly, who's played at Texas. I think Mitchell Daly has played in the College World Series once at Texas. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. But how weird was it that Kentucky in this park with the team that didn't really hit home runs? I mean, it hit some, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't up there with the top 5 or 6 teams in the conference in home runs. Kentucky gets 3. Gets one from Nicholson, gets one earlier in the game from McCarthy, and then gets the game winner by Daly. And all, for full disclosure, I didn't get to watch this. I was on the road coming back from Atlanta watching the Braves. But, you get 6 innings, 3 runs from Poozer. That's about what you expect. You get an inning from Cameron O'Brien, who's been tremendous. You get a third of an inning from Jackson Novi. You get a third of an inning from Hogan. He gives up a run. And then you go back, interestingly enough, going back to Johnny Hummel to close that win was kind of interesting because Hummel was a kid who for about the first 2.5 months, nobody hit him. And then came that South Carolina game, and everybody started hitting him for a while. Carolina, I believe, got 3 home runs against him in a game. When would that series have been? That'd have been about midway through conference play, maybe a little past. And then it felt like Johnny Hummel, after being kind of invincible to that point, he had a strikeout rate around 40%, which is really hard to do, was just very ordinary. And maybe the confidence was gone. Maybe there's an injury. I don't know what the case was. But Kentucky stopped throwing Johnny Hummel in those pressure situations. You saw him come back. And I think I'm not sure if he got a save in a regional, but I think he did close out one of the games with maybe an inning or so. And that was kind of a big deal to maybe get him some confidence back. So you saw Hummel yesterday close out the game, and that might be something Nick Mingione in Kentucky take going forward. And then you had that crazy thing last night between Florida and A&M. I'm still kind of waiting for A&M's bats to show up again the way they did earlier. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I wouldn't rule it out. We saw a little bit of that against Oregon in the regional when the middle of that order, Burton, Appel, those guys started hit. You saw Caden Kent get a chance in that game against Oregon after Montgomery got hurt, in the third inning in that super regional on Saturday. So Kent got a chance to play a little bit more. He's hit pretty well. Last night I thought it was very interesting that A&M rolled the dice and did not throw Ryan Prager, because I would have almost bet the house that Prager would start. Now, I know he didn't throw that well the last time out. I get it. But Jim Schlossnagle rolled the dice on that one and really came out big. Because if you can go up 1-0 and get a struggling starter some confidence, and then you can go back to Ryan Prager, look out. Tennessee may be the team to beat at this point in the tournament. I did pick A&M before the NCAA tournament. I've stuck with it. I've waffled a little bit because you can't just pretend that not having Shane Sadeo doesn't make a difference, and you can't just pretend that Braden Montgomery being out doesn't make a difference, because those guys are dudes. And especially the one weakness that A&M has, in my opinion, it's that number 2 and 3 starting spots. Again, do they have the bullpen depth to make it up? Of course they do. But they got a little bit less with Sadeo, who's been a relief guy, now pitching in that 3-hole, or had been. With him gone, you've eaten into your depth a little bit. And he's a big-time arm. Now, look, they've got other big-time arms. They've got Chris Cortez, who's been phenomenal. They've got Evan Aschenbeck, who's best relief pitcher in the country. They got a lot of other dudes. But all things considered, you'd like to have your top, half dozen arms available. And he's one of those. So I thought it was very interesting with no Sadeo, not throwing Prager last night. I didn't see that one coming. I don't know when that announcement was made. Again, I was out of town a little bit on a Father's Day trip. So I don't know when they made that announcement. I didn't catch it till last night. But I just thought that I did not expect Jim Schlossnagle to roll the dice and do that. But boy, did it pay off. Boy, did it pay off. They got Justin Lampkin, 3 scoreless innings. He's not been as bad as Tanner Jones has been, but it's been a while since I think we've seen Justin Lampkin consistently good. He goes 3 scoreless out of the chute. Chris Cortez comes in the middle. Wasn't vintage Chris Cortez. He gave up a couple of runs in 3 innings, and then Aschenbeck came in and shut the door. And I'm not even sure when the last time that kid gave up a run was. It's been a minute. Aschenbeck's just that guy. He's like the closest thing to Kevin Kopps since we had Kevin Kopps. Alfred just messaged me. His camera's screwed up. Alfred, jump back in the studio. I'll see what it looks like, and I'll maybe patch you back in if the picture's decent. In any case, so you got that coming up now. Presumably tomorrow night, you've got Ryan Prager and Mason Moore. And boy, that's going to be a dandy. That is going to be a dandy. All right, let's put you in. All right, your camera went haywire, but we got you.
You got me. Do I look okay still?
It'll be okay. Pull your screen down a little bit. Yeah, you're good. We're good here.
Okay.
No Rays hat tonight. Were you?
No hat. I just show off the
ashamed after the Braves took 2 or 3.
Well, I could have worn. I could have worn it tonight. I could have worn it tonight because we won today. But yes, we are not. We are dragging our knuckles at this point through this baseball season and need to get healthy ASAP. Oh,
Well, hey, you've had your moments. Like I'm just glad the Braves found their bats this weekend. Um, but enough MLB talk. I don't think that's what the folks are here for. Yeah, just talking about tomorrow night, potential big pitching matchup between Mason Moore and Ryan Prager. And again, these teams I don't think played during the regular season, so I'm very interested to see how they match up.
yeah, I am too. It should be a great game. I mean, I think we're going to get a little bit of what we talked about in a Tennessee-Kentucky matchup with it already, with, power bat versus defensively, how can Kentucky keep up with them? But I think that's going to be, or defensively, I meant how much A&M can keep up with Kentucky just based off of their small ball play. That's going to be the biggest thing. I think A&M has the pitching ability to do it, and I trust Appel at this point behind the plate defensively with it. But I think that's going to be something definitely to watch. It has the potential to be the most exciting game this tournament. I mean, I said that after Clemson, Florida, and Florida State, Tennessee happened, so I'm not putting anything past these two at this point to do the same thing.
Well, speaking of catching, you've had some good catching in this tournament. You got Cal Stark back there for Tennessee. You got Devin Burks for Kentucky, who's tremendous. Jackson Appel was first team All SEC catcher. He's very good defensively. So that's kind of something to watch in a park where if a ball gets by you, you're gonna pay for it, as we've seen a time or two. We've also got Florida in an elimination game tomorrow against NC State. Hadn't talked about that one because we kind of focused more on the winners bracket. By the way, Tennessee has indeed polished off North Carolina 6-1 final to get that one. Snead finishes that one out. So yeah, I presume if they announce Caglione as a starter, I don't know how they would go.
Right. Anyone else?
With anybody else.
Yeah. Right. I would think it'd be Caglione. I think they're going to go him. And then NC State used Highfill yesterday. So it's going to be, I'm trying to think of who they'd be. I knew this, but they're going to go the other route. Highfill had a really good game despite NC State losing. So that should be a good game. I'm going to give the edge to Florida if I had to predict, right off the bat, just because I think that team, Florida played good enough down the stretch of that A&M game to win it. It just took a Lavalette catch to kind of, subdue that. So I got the Gators in that one just for our sake of talking points. And I don't think this Florida team's going to back down quite yet. I mean, I think they still have some work to do this tournament. We've seen it time and time again. And hopefully they don't have any NC State crowds going up to the dugout and giving those coaches a headache like yesterday.
Oh, man.
Atrocious.
That got a lot of attention.
Yeah, if I could comment on that real quick. Atrocious behavior. Hands down, that guy, I guess the two of them that were there should not be welcomed back to Omaha forever. And I think that's how it's going to be, because I saw the Omaha Police Department posted something regarding that, and it seems like that's what they're going to do. But yeah, just not the scene you want, not well represented by SEC fans in general, A&M fans especially. But yeah, I think hopefully that never happens again. But that was another probably really big story so far from this World Series we've gotten.
Yeah, the Omaha police may have given the attention they were looking for with that tweet, but that aside, yeah, I mean, how about that Lavalette catch last night? I don't know how many 6'6" center fielders I've seen in my lifetime. Not a lot. Trying to think, not many. I mean, look, I was doing some mock draft stuff. I mean, mock drafts for next year are ridiculously premature. But I'm seeing Lavalette as a potential 1-1 candidate, which makes total sense. I mean, when you've got the package of tools he's talking about wanting to steal 25 bases last year. You got the power. He's got 28 home runs, something like that. He's making those catches in center field. He's got the height. He's got the range. I mean, that kid, I don't know what. Well, the only thing lacking in the toolbox there is a swing and miss. He had I think a strikeout rate in the mid to high 20s, which is not ideal, but it's not, there's some acceptance of swing and miss coming with it. You like to see that lower lower 20s instead of upper 20s. But like Jack Caglione last year, pretty high strikeout rate, came back. I just didn't want his strikeout rate as much as the fact that he didn't take walks. And he flipped that on its ear. So you can see kids develop, and I think that's maybe the one question mark about him is a swing and miss, but he's also a college sophomore. So Jace Lavalette last night kind of stole the night with that catch at the end.
Yeah, he made it look casual too, Chris. I mean, it looked like he barely jumped and got that ball, and it would have been gone had he not been there. So physically, the attributes he has are ridiculous for an outfielder anyone would want. And I mean, he's, again, I'd have to look into it more, but he certainly is, if we're looking early into next year as top 10 guys just around the league, he's going to be high on that list within the top 5. I mean, I just think, with what we saw from him this year, and he's going to have more work to do, obviously, with the Montgomery injury still affecting them. So he's the guy in A&M and College Station from here on out, and he gets an early start at that. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he does later.
All right. I'm going to scroll through the comments. Matt wanted to see that Kentucky shirt. Matt, I could have worn that, the Tuck shirt tonight for Kentucky making the College World Series and winning its first one. That's a big moment. Didn't tonight, but don't take it personally. Let's see. What else have we got here? Let's see. Somebody asked where we're from. I'm in the Nashville area. You're not too far out of Clemson, right?
Greenville, South Carolina, a little outside of Greenville, in all the podunk towns around it. Yeah.
Okay, you know what's funny? I was at the Braves game Saturday night, sat next to some folks from Greenville, so maybe they're watching us tonight. Oh,
hopefully we need some. There's a lot of, you get a mixed bag. I feel like you get a lot of Gamecocks too, so they'll watch this. Obviously, they've been out for a hot sec, but yeah, I feel like you get a lot of people that will watch this stuff here. A lot of that area is growing baseball wise too. There's a lot of tournaments and whatnot in the area for kids.
All right, we got a little smack talk here. Prager will shut out Kentucky. Could happen. Although I don't know, when's the last time Kentucky got shut out?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, they're tough to shut out because they drive up pitch counts and take walks.
They do it.
Look that one up while I'm scrolling through the comments here.
Go ahead.
Tennessee 1 win away from the national championship. That's from the national championship series. A little different. You got to win 2 out of 3 once you get there. But yeah, Vols 1 game away from the title match at this point. If you're tuning in, like we talked a little bit about that, I thought Drew Beam was the story of the night. Was just fantastic for Tennessee. Stuff was as good as I have ever seen it. Usually he's a ground ball guy. Let his defense do the work. Tonight he just said, "Screw it, I'm gonna take the ball. I'm gonna shove it. You can't hit me." And pretty much they couldn't. I thought his fastball was as good as it had ever been. It was 95, 96. It held its plane, and his breaking ball was as good as I've ever seen it, especially the lefties. So hats off to that kid for throwing a gem tonight. He would be my player of the game. Let's see if we got anything else in here. We got some watchers down in Georgia. David, thanks for tuning in. Would Tennessee play the winner of Florida State and Carolina? And the question is, who would Tennessee rather play? Yes, Tennessee will play the winner of Florida State and North Carolina. And I think you'd probably rather play, if you're Tennessee, wouldn't you rather play North Carolina at this point?
I feel like you would. I mean, Florida State gave you, an emotional swing, and Florida State has 2 first-round guys at batting when Cam Smith and James Tibbs. So I'd rather, not that North Carolina can hit the ball either. I mean, they obviously have Vance Honeycutt and whatnot, but just based off tonight, I think they'd rather see North Carolina again. I think Florida State also has revenge on their mind because of that controversial check swing Blake Burke had. So, yeah, that's where I'd go with that.
Yeah.
And, by the way, last time Kentucky was shut out, whoever asked that, or Chris asked that, but regarding that comment, LSU and Hoover, it was 11-0.
That was me.
Chris, could you hear that, or did anyone hear that?
No, I didn't. I didn't catch that. Last time Kentucky was shut out was when?
Hoover, 11-0 loss to LSU.
Oh, of course, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, because Kentucky just didn't really show for that event for whatever reason.
No, that wasn't their tournament.
Okay, so there was that. But I mean, I bet. Did they get shut out the rest of the year?
Yeah. I saw they did against South Carolina back in April.
So I think. Okay.
Oh, I think we're frozen.
Yeah. I mean, still I think they were top 5 in scoring in the league. So, and again, they're different than Tennessee. They're a headache to pitch to 1-9. And Alfred, I think you've frozen on me here.
Let's see if you can hear me. I'll leave and come back.
It's been a night with internet, folks. I'm sorry for those of you who are catching us live. We've not had issues like this in about 8 or 9 months. So apologies there. Yeah, I think Alfred kicked himself off. So, all right, to recap, Tennessee is advancing to the semifinals on the left side of the bracket. Will face either Florida State or North Carolina on Wednesday. Vols will have a ton of rest at that point. And presumably we'll throw Xander Sechrist. I mean, you could come back and you could go, suppose if you wanted to, you could go Causey and out of the pen with the kid from Cal. Stamos starting like they've done. That hadn't gone well the last couple times they've started Stamos. I think at this point, I would just stick with your normal plan. Go Sechrist in that Wednesday game. If you need another game on Thursday or whatever that would be, then I'd go back to Causey. But we'll see. And then if you win that one, you can save Causey for the opener and pitch Beam in a potential game clincher, game 2 situation in the title series. That's looking way ahead. Way ahead. I'm just trying to think how you would think through the pitching situation if you're Tennessee, and I think that's what I do. I think I just throw Sechrist in that spot and then save your Stamos Causey for either an elimination game in the bracket segment of things, or just save him to start the finals against either. Well, whoever you get, we don't know who it's going to be yet, but looking like an SEC team probably, since they're in the driver's seat in the winner's bracket. So that's what I do. Tomorrow night, I think we'll get a dandy. Mason Moore's been pitching better for Kentucky. He was so good all season, hit a rough patch, I guess. I don't know, May, maybe late April. Wasn't himself. He's been himself the last couple of weeks. Again, I think this is a park that plays to Kentucky's advantage. Kentucky can cover ground. It can do a lot of stuff. Matt's let me know the internet's my fault, so I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my internet tonight. I've not had internet troubles in a long time. So anyway, our apologies for that. So I think that's what you'll see tomorrow night. You'll see a classic. I guess A&M's going to have a game 3 either way. I don't know if they'd go back to Tanner Jones. That's not been real pretty when he throws. Probably depends on how much you have to exhaust your bullpen. And let's face it, Kentucky can really exhaust a bullpen. Even when they're not scoring, they're taking pitches, they're taking walks. So that's something to watch is when Kentucky and A&M go at it tomorrow night, what's left over in those bullpens. Kentucky didn't really use a ton of it. They didn't have to throw O'Brien an unusual number of pitches yesterday. Now, A&M had to use Cortez for a lot of pitches and Aschenbeck for a lot of pitches. Now, I think those guys can probably come back on a day's rest. Let me look at pitch counts. Cortez was 65. Yeah, that might be a lot to come back tomorrow. Aschenbeck, I think, can come back. He's been kind of their rubber arm guy. He threw 51. So I think if they get in a pinch, they can use him. But hey, you got Ryan Prager. Prager could easily give you 7. Then you can go to Rudis or somebody else. I'm saying easily against most teams. Kentucky might be different. And it just feels like Mason Moore every time out. Mason Moore would give you 6 innings. And then you turn it back over to O'Brien and all those guys. And again, they've got Jackson Novey. They got a half dozen guys that if you're Nick Mingione, you can probably trust. So I think that's probably going to be the plan for those teams. Now, if you knock a starter out early, that's when you start getting trouble, especially for your A&M with Cedillo down. That's when, if you're Kentucky, maybe you got a chance to throw a little bit of a haymaker early if you can get Prager out of there, which Oregon did last week. And keep in mind, A&M survived that and the Cedillo injury, which came early in his start. Knocked him out, I think, in the first inning. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to watch the pitching on Monday, see where that goes. And in Florida, you'll see Caglione tomorrow. I think Alfred said it's Highfield tomorrow for Carolina. I can't remember if that's what the call is or not. So, either way, you got a lot of pitching situations to watch, and then there'll be Tennessee just waving at everybody while it rests its staff tomorrow. So, yeah, that's that. So we've got Virginia got eliminated today, and you'll see either North Carolina or Florida State eliminated, and then Florida and NC State, the loser of those games, go home. So got one eliminated, about to have a couple more go home too. But the SEC is in great shape, guys, because Tennessee is in the driver's seat on the left side of the bracket, up 2-0. Either Florida State or North Carolina's going to have to win 3 games in a row to get to the championship series. That's really hard, especially the way this team hits. And you saw Tennessee tonight go to the bench and went to Reese Chapman, who hit a home run. You didn't see Dalton Barger. He didn't play tonight. He had a couple home runs in on it coming off the bench in a super regional. So Tennessee's got all kinds of depth on the bench. I guess the one thing you're worried about a little bit, if you're Tennessee, is the Inslee injury, because he played pretty well in center lately. And I'm not saying Tennessee can't defend, because it can. Stark had a great year behind the plate. Burke was really good at first. They got a couple guys off the bench in Antigua, who can defend up the middle. And Tears has got a great arm and right. But when you think of Tennessee, you don't really think of defense. And I think Inslee in center is a little bit of a dimension that if he's out, then maybe they miss him a little bit. If you didn't see it, he made a catch in the 3rd inning or so. Really, really terrific catch. Going back to, I guess he's running back towards the left center gap. Got a beat on the ball, caught it, I don't know, a dozen feet from the wall in front of the warning track, and then just slammed into the wall enough where he left his eye black on the wall. And then he came out a couple innings later, looked like a hamstring or something tightened up on him. So don't know the severity of that injury. I don't know if it was a hamstring. I'm just speculating. I was just watching him in the dugout. Looked like he was grabbing that area and limping around a little bit. So, look, if you lose Hunter Inslee, it's not the end of the world. Again, Reese Chapman comes off the bench tonight, smacks a home run. But you do lose an outfield defense dimension, and in that park, that's the big deal. That's a really big deal, because it is a spacious park. It's got dimensions of a major league park. And you need a center fielder who can cover some ground. And that's Hunter Inslee. So Vols looks like, I shouldn't say looks like they'll be without him next game, because he's got 3 games to heal now. And that's just what Tennessee needed. Not 3 games, 3 days. They don't play again until Wednesday now by virtue of winning tonight. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on Florida more. I presume they'll go Jack Caglione a while, Brandon Neely. I would presume it will be pretty fresh. He threw 21 pitches. They've been throwing him like there's no tomorrow. And then, of course, we'll watch that really, really exciting matchup between Kentucky and A&M. And I think we'll see Mason Moore and Ryan Prager. And then who else is left to that bullpen? Both teams have got plenty of guys left, even if A&M is a little hobbled with an injury to Sadeo, which hurts things. So anyway, all right, Alfred's out for the night. We had bad internet trouble, so I'm sorry if you called us earlier and we weren't on our games, our connections weren't good. I don't know what happened tonight. That's a rarity around here. Our internet's usually pretty reliable, but tonight was a different story. So, yeah, I'm just going to go and end it tonight. We will be back maybe tomorrow night with the live stream. Best way to catch that. Either way, we'll be reacting to what happens on Monday, either on a live stream or we'll recap that maybe the next morning. In any case, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and enable your notifications so you get it that way. For Alfred Ezman, I'm Chris Lee. Thanks for watching us here at Southeastern 14, presented by BetOnline.